Hi, everyone, and welcome to Alpine Intel's The Savvy Adjuster podcast, where we explore the insurance-related topics that matter most to insurance professionals with the experts who know them best. I'm your host, Senior Account Manager Chris Nichols. At Alpine Intel, if you're not aware, we are committed to innovation across not only the property field, but auto, liability, workers' comp, insurance fields. And on this podcast, we often discuss specific losses that we see in claims, like past episodes about wind damage to asphalt shingles, fire hazards in commercial kitchens, or even navigating questionable vehicle claims. If you haven't heard those yet, I highly suggest you check them out after this episode. Today, we're going to take a step back, though, and look at the bigger picture, the challenges that insurance professionals face each time that they take on a new property claim. Additionally, we're going to be touching on the role that data has and how it can lead to higher accuracy and efficiency. To help us unpack all of that, I'm thrilled to be joined by Resnick Cruz, who is Alpine Intel's Chief Revenue Officer. He's got more than 2 decades, is that right? 2 decades of experience?
I believe so.
2 decades.
My age.
2 decades of experience in the insurance industry and a wealth of knowledge and practical insight. So before we dive into all of that, I would love for you to let our listeners know a little bit about your background in the insurance industry.
Sure, absolutely. Graduated college and somehow ended up in insurance. Initially, I thought I was going to go to law school, and when that didn't work out, ended up working for State Farm and got trained by State Farm and in a program where you go through like the actuary school and the underwriting school and the claims school, and eventually decided on claims and did that for a couple of years, and then eventually worked on the CAT team for Travelers. My first assignment being 9/11 and the collapse of the Twin Towers. From there, I became a re-inspector for Travelers and eventually went into the independent adjusting world. Basically, any disaster that had happened from coast to coast over a span of 10 years I was involved in, and eventually came on board Alpine, and excited to be here and looking forward to your questions, Chris.
Yeah, well, needless to say, we are in good hands today. Well, we have a lot of claim professionals listening today that handle a variety of claims, and whether it's, say, like a university that's got 200 plus units across their campus, maybe as small as a residential claim with some solar panels or pool equipment, even hail damage to residential roofing. What would you say are some of the challenges that adjusters are facing when handling these sometimes complex claims?
It's a great question, Chris. First and foremost, the job of the adjuster is incredibly difficult. Their caseloads are high. The type of claims that come in are different. Each of them has their own aspects of whether it be related to wind or water or flood. And so anything that we can do here at Alpine to actually facilitate and help them is the core to our business. And when you're talking about complexity, the item type or the actual building piece that's complex is where the adjusters actually need assistance. And so, for example, on HVAC systems are incredibly complex, and adjusters, the majority of them are actually just generalists. They usually do a visual inspection regarding it, and many of the equipment types actually require putting meters on and capturing data points in order to determine actually what happened to these units. And HVACi over the years has understood those complexities and made them into something that's easy for the adjusters to actually comprehend and understand and be able to utilize. And so we take the hard stuff, the data points regarding it, and come up with the conclusion regarding the cause of loss, which allows the adjuster to make the determination. Those data points are actually captured, and we utilize those as the basis of future inspections in order to capture it and in order to be able to utilize it and share it with the insurance community. So, for example, we know that when it comes down to causes of loss, when it comes down to HVAC systems, up to 40% of what we see are either damaged by wear and tear or non-damage.
It's a pretty big number.
It's a significant number if you think about the hundreds of thousands of claims or systems that HVACi looks at. We understand the effects of age on equipment. We understand the manufacturers that are involved and the components that are either available or not available. We're not even talking about the repair versus replace aspect of it.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, if you even consider that piece of it, we know that on average to replace a system is over $10,000 on a residential system. However, in order to repair it, it's $5,000.
Yeah, that's a big difference.
Absolutely. And so we do what we can to provide the adjusters the tools necessary from an expert standpoint in an unbiased fashion in order to be able to make that determination and get through that claim assignment in order to get to the next file.
Sure. Well, and it's in the logo as well, right? Just the facts,
That's right.
We want to provide a unbiased and actionable report to help them move that claim through the life cycle. So
that's absolutely correct. And the reality of it is, we never developed a business in order to be able to determine coverage. That wasn't a core piece of it. We leave that piece to the adjuster and to the claim professional in order to make that determination. What we want to provide is the unbiased aspect of, hey, what actually happened? Or, was it lightning? Was it surge? Was it wind? What actually happened? And can it be repaired? And to allow the adjusters to really go back to their policyholders and say, hey, this really complex piece of equipment, I was able to determine what was wrong with it very quickly, get them to a settlement where the policyholder is happy and everybody can move on.
Sure. And we've got much more data to dive into, as far as StrikeCheck, but that's it's a good overview of, again, 10 plus years. We have this knowledge base and database that we've then put behind these reports to make them the best product out there. So.
Absolutely. And the reality of it is we share our data with the carrier community. We believe that that it is important because it allows them to make determinations regarding their own claims. For example, you can have carriers that make determinations regarding processes. And they can say, hey, within a certain dollar threshold, we take that particular claim and maybe we process it without getting an expert involved. The reality of it is that data that we have actually helps in those processes and the evaluation of those processes. And so one of the things that we've done in the past is we know, for example, that heat is one of the factors that actually causes HVAC systems to shut down.
Sure.
So with climate change and things that are happening, if you pay attention to, summers seem to be getting hotter, these systems seem to not function as properly. The reality of them is that they're not functioning as properly, and that they do shut down, and it is important to evaluate it by case, and it is important to understand what is actually going on with the mechanism of failure. And so it'll be interesting to see as climate change happens even more with these other building and specialty items, what the effects of that is on those items as well.
Sure. I know we touched a little bit on the repair versus replace for residential systems, but I'd love if you have it, which I'm sure you do, talk a little bit about, not only do we excel at residential inspections, but we handle a ton of commercial as well. Can you speak a little bit of the commercial averages for repair and replacing a full system?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you think about commercial, is the complexity of the system, including the number of systems, is actually what drives accuracy.
Sure.
And so on average, when it's $5,000 for a residential system, it's actually around $6,500 to $7,000 for a commercial system.
But that's to repair it.
To repair
Just
it.
Simply repair it to
That's
get it to
correct.
pre-loss condition, yeah.
But to replace is significantly more. You're looking at anywhere between $14,000 and $18,000 to say for a system. That's not counting complex systems like chillers or things of that sort.
Sure.
What we find a lot on commercial is that it's not just one system. Many of the losses that we go out to is multiple systems on a rooftop, and the reality is the maintenance on those don't happen as often that people believe that happens. So you can get up there and you can you can have a loss, and the reality of it is it's been ongoing for an extended period of time. You have equipment that's functioning, you have equipment that's not functioning. It's really important to capture those data points system by system, bring them back, look to the manufacturer regarding components that are available in order to give the most comprehensive report to the carrier or to the adjusters, so they feel confident that they are able to stand behind the report that they share with their policyholder.
Sure. Yeah. And after diving into our annual report on the HVACi side of things, I know you touched on residential and commercial. We also handle a lot of large loss, which I think we at least internally deem as 15 or more systems, right? And those large loss numbers can get massive, as far as the accuracy is concerned. And I think what I had seen is that 38% roughly of the units that we looked at came back as non-damaged, which is a massive number, and that leads to an average accuracy. I think it was over 600,000 per large loss claim. So those are real
numbers.
Accuracy,
Yeah, those are what we refer to as pent-up accuracy, that it exists.
Sure.
It's not uncommon for us to go out to a school district, say in Texas, and have over 2,000 rooftop systems. And the reality of those are, you're constricted by time. There's an incredible amount of pressure on the adjuster in order to get through it, especially if school is starting and you want to get through it and get these systems back operational. And many times what we find, to your point, if 35 to 45% of them are actually not damaged or that are wear and tear, that's significant amounts of time that is required in order to get those back running. So it actually helps the insured, no matter what the cause of loss is, and no matter what our determination, it gives them clarity in order to be able to get their business or school back up and running in order to be able to function.
So we've talked a lot about complex claims on the HVAC side of things, but what about things like consumer electronics and appliances? Our sister company, StrikeCheck, that is their wheelhouse, their bread and butter. Curious to hear about the data you've gathered on items of that nature.
Sure. I think it's important to identify consumer electronics. Many carriers look at consumer electronics and appliances as contents, but the reality of it is that even though they are contents, because of the fact that they actually take an electrical charge in order to actually function, in order to actually determine what's wrong with these equipment types, is to do a thorough evaluation of them. Over the years, we've identified that, interestingly, 29 or 30% of the items that we actually look at are actually non-damaged.
Big percentage.
Yeah, it's a significant number. And if you think about the typical claim that a policyholder has with a carrier when it comes down to consumer electronics, it's not just one item. There are multiple of items that are presented on these personal property inventory forms. And if a third of them are non-damaged, how much accuracy is actually there? And so we recognize that. We also know on appliances that appliances are actually getting more complex, especially on high-end appliances. So if you're looking at a Wolf or Sub-Zero piece of equipment, it's incredibly expensive to replace these items. So it's very important that proper evaluation for repairability is conducted on these types of equipment.
Yeah. But I think of things like as simple as a TV, right?
Sure.
And because of the fact that we've been around for years and we gather all this data and we put it to use, right? We know that a specific manufacturer of a TV maybe had an HDMI port on the back that historically had failed over the last 3 years. We've got that data. So our technicians can then find that information, feed it back to us, and we can make an accurate cause of loss determination.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a very relevant point, because a lot of times the assumption is made that the failure of the actual part is due to some kind of act of God. But the reality of it is the equipment fails, or it's a manufacturing defect that's already there. We have that information, and when we're going through our QC process, we evaluate that to make sure that those data points are actually captured and shared accordingly with our carrier partners in order for them to see if there's any potential subrogation that might
Sure.
exist or things of that sort. Chris, like last year, I think we looked over 395 different item types at StrikeCheck. So it's not just, hey, it's the television or it's the dishwasher. There's many different item types that are out there. Where we see incredible accuracy is in the well pumps and the pool equipment and the electrical panel and the whole house electric. Those are areas, again, where adjusters is being generalist. Going out there and just observing it is not going to give you the data points you need. You actually need to test, and getting a licensed electrician to go out there unbiased and evaluating it for actual true cause of loss, no matter where he ends up or she ends up, and sharing that with the carrier, our carrier partners, is incredibly valuable.
Yeah. Well, and I'm glad you mentioned the electrical panel as well. We do look at the wiring outlets, service panels of claims, and I think it was close to 66% of electrical panels that we looked at were non-damaged and functioning like they should. And I bring that up because if you've ever seen a cost of a new electrical panel, it gets pretty sizable. So, again, being able to look at not only, like we say, contents, both inside and outside of the house, but the whole house electrical is a pretty valuable thing. Even to the fact we can look at an outlet and say this outlet is bad. It's not the TV that's connected to it.
That's right.
It's the outlet.
That's
so
right.
Again, it's getting that professional out there to provide this.
But that particular data point that you just shared is, if you think about carrier processes again, if the carrier is made aware by their service provider or that, hey, look, this percentage of the panels are non-damage, what can they do regarding their own process?
Sure.
In order to make sure that they're capturing that and they're adjudicating it in the right way, that they're paying the right amount that they owe, no more, no less, but yet are satisfying the adjudication process. And what I mean by that is that the adjusters know actually how, hey, next time there's a panel that comes in, this is the SOP regarding actually evaluating
Sure.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's nice to have that transparency between us and our carrier partners, our clients, to provide them that data to make them more efficient.
That's right.
As a business as well. And we don't need to dive into it too much. We've got podcasts and CE credited webinars on this topic, but there's a big difference between a lightning claim and a high voltage surge claim. And again, we look at those all the time, and 60% of our inbound cases are recategorized as far as a cause of loss. It's a big number. It comes in as one thing and our professionals determine, no, it's actually this. So again, accuracy, efficiency, on the StrikeCheck side of things.
Well, we want to provide the carrier the most unbiased determination of information and let them make the decision regarding it. And really, if you think about all the item types that are out there over the last couple of years, what we have noticed and what we've been able to identify is that there's an absolute need when it comes down to these types of equipment in order to get them properly evaluated. The tendency is to say, hey, they just need to be replaced. But there's many equipment types that actually the repair option is a better option because of the fact that you can cause additional damage to, for example, the cabinets if you're dealing with taking out a built-in dishwasher, or
Sure.
you're taking out a built-in fridge, and you can create more damage by doing that. But if you actually repair it, you reduce the chance of causing that kind of damage.
Well, final question for
Sure.
you, Reza. Alpine Intel recently saw their service lines double, really even more than double, including brands like Tech Loss, VRC Investigations, BSC, the Robinson Group, and then most recently, Mechanica Scientific. I'd love for you to tell our listeners a little bit about why Alpine Intel is expanding their service offerings.
Great question. The reality of it is, Chris, that our carrier partners are asking for it. We believe that utilizing technology and tech-enabled services is the key and the future of being able to provide these type of specialty services. And we're expanding into these other specialty services in order to be able to get the carriers what they need in order to be able to adjudicate their claims. So no matter if you're dealing with a residential engineering assignment that comes to us for Donan or BSC, which is a complex commercial assignment, we want to be able to provide that for you. In the investigative space with ERC and the TRG group, we want to be able to provide surveillance on those workers' comp claims and whether it be hospital canvassing or anything else that you might need that's not traditional to Alpine is now traditional. And we're also expanding into the auto space and accident reconstruction space because of the need that's out there. The industry is facing right now many challenges, but one of the biggest challenges they're facing right now is that the claim professionals are actually aging out. They're retiring and moving on, and this is creating a gap that needs to be fulfilled. And Alpine takes it upon themselves to make sure that we are able to provide a solution to these gaps that are created in a way that allows our carrier partners to do what they do best, which is get through the claim process, fulfill their promises to the policyholder, and ultimately provide the service that they've been contracted to do.
Sure. So, yeah. One-stop shop, right?
That's it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Easy button.
This has all been really great information, not only for our listeners, but certainly valuable data that adjusters, claims managers, insurance executives can all benefit from. So really appreciate you being generous with your time and joining us here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Welcome back anytime. So for our listeners, you can learn more about specific equipment or the perils that they face in our resource library that's up on our website, which is alpineintel.com. You can also check out all of our service offerings that we went over to get more information on that. Finally, and I say it every episode, but make sure to subscribe to the Savvy Adjuster podcast on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. Thanks again for joining today, and we'll see you next time.